Okay, Mike, welcome back to F.A.C.E, my trading warrior brother. I'm going to mute you now. And there you are.
There's me. Let me get my screen up.
Okay, this is everyone, Mike Pisani, Ad Options Mike. Here's smartoptiontrading.com. He's not related to Bob Pisani, who used to have the real estate beat. He's a much better trader than Bob Pisani.
I always get that question though, Dale. That's
I
like
know.
everybody always asks me. You know Bob Pisani? I'm like, my father's name is actually Bob Pisani, but not that Bob Pisani.
Okay, buddy. So anyway,
So you do know Bob Pisani?
Yes, so I do know a Bob Pisani. If I had to take a lie detector test, I do know one.
Well, you know, buddy, it's a much more difficult endeavor to be a trader rather than a reporter, don't you think?
You know, I think you said something when I first came on, Dale, and that when times get like this, you don't have to trade.
Yeah.
And this is an extremely tough market right now. And today looks to be a very challenging day, just right off the start. But yeah, what we do is tough.
This HYG is long? It's what kind of debt is it again?
HYG is the high yield.
High yield, yes.
Right.
Okay.
And this is you can see how where the market's been going up. We have a lower high on the HYG, and it's rolled almost to the 200-day already.
It's compressing.
Yep. You know, so for me, like I like to look at the markets. I look at technicals, I look at sentiment, and I use option flow to tell me what's going on in individual names in the overall market. And I use that to come up with a trading plan every day, what I want to trade, what kind of risk I want to put on, or what kind of risk I don't want to put on in general, if that makes sense.
It does.
And
it does. So is this, you know, you're starting with this. Are you getting a market message from this about credit quality deteriorating? Because I did read in the corporate bonds sector, or saw someone talking about it, that a lot of the ratings are, you know, a bit optimistic because there's a lot of debt that's, you know, corporate debt that's ranked, you know, A, AA, AAA doesn't belong there.
You know, the corporate bonds have often been the canary in the coal mine, right? They're often the first to go, and you see all the time the market comes in. They're usually what leads us down. So I always keep a close eye on them, but we've been kind of decoupled from it now for a while. While that market's been breaking out and making new highs, HYG's slowly been rolling down, but you see the 200 days it comes in along here, that green line.
Yeah,
you got a lot of support on that.
We're right there.
Yep. And if you look back since the big sell-off late last year into the Christmas rally, right?
Yeah.
And everybody thought I remember people coming on and said we had 20% more lower to go on that. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're not going to go 20% lower from here.
Okay. So so really that was the real negative December, the worst December we had since, what was it? 1929?
Right.
1929. And we've come back, but now we're diverging or unlinking between what's happening in equities and what's happening here, because this looks pretty sideways for 6 months now, with the market melting up. So does that tell you something, Mike, about the health of the market if we take out the 200-day here?
If we take out the 200-day, I think this market's going to come in, and we're going to see a down move in the market. If we bounce off of here, I don't think the market cares. Switching gears here a little bit. Let me go to the ES, and you know, we've had this beautiful breakout. Let me get a little bit more data in here.
So do you trade options on HYG, and are they liquid?
They are liquid. I don't generally trade them. I'd rather trade vehicles like the VXX and such, because they're just faster movers. You can better bang for your buck, Dale.
Okay, more reflexive than this.
Right.
Okay. All right.
But you know, this market's been consolidating here for the last 18 plus months, since that January 2018 blow off, right?
Right.
And we're just starting to break out. So for me, when I look at what's going on with the HYG, as long as it holds that 200-day, I think it'll rally back up. And you know, earnings have been good so far, and you know it might be hard to see, but you had this downtrend break, and now you created this ascending channel on the ES.
Yeah.
And guess where we are this morning?
Wow.
Right.
So is that a 200-day there too, or what?
This is the 200-day on the ES,
Oh,
but
okay.
right here, we're on the 8-day moving average. You can see the
8 day.
8-day moving average
Yeah.
since
Look.
we took it back.
How
It's
do you
been
come up
short.
with 8, Mike?
You know, I got to give Scott Redler credit for that. It's something I learned when I first
Okay.
started trading. He liked it. I started using it. And I'm like, you know what? This has a lot of merit, and I like it. And it for me, I always give credit where credit's due. That's
Right.
the type of guy I am. But I like how stocks react off of it. It's a fast momentum indicator. I use the
There's nothing
email.
new under the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we learn from everyone, don't we?
Yeah, and you're always learning, Dale.
Yeah. Yeah. You're growing or dying. So to me, this looks pretty critical here. Where's that come in? Around 3109 or so?
So right here, it's right at 3104, right where we bounced
Okay.
off of to this morning, almost right to the penny on the ES, right
Okay.
into it. You have this trend line that you can establish here. So to me, today and the next day or two is about this line. If you
Okay.
break it, I do think we probably get a fast, short-lived down move in this market. Momentum comes out, right? It's been built up. The one thing that has been worrying me about this market for 2 weeks is breadth has been thin. And if you use Thinkorswim, you can check that every day by going into the $ ADD, right? And you can see how even when the market's been up, market breadth, advanced decliners has been putrid. And
Distribution, then I mean this move could be distribution. Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking that, yeah, we've run a lot. There's a lot of money on the sidelines that wants to get in, Dale, but it doesn't want to chase the market at all-time highs. So it may be looking here saying, give me a dip to buy this market. And I do think long time we're going higher.
Okay, but we could have like a 5 to 10% correction. That'd be the last buying opportunity before the S&Ps really blow it to the upside. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I think we could get a correction. I actually think it might be so shallow, it might be down to where we broke out of on the ES around the 3029 area.
Okay.
I really don't think we're going to get, unless we get some very bad news, right? And in this market, we are certainly prone to a lot of news, all basically on China, right? The impeachment thing, nobody cares about. The market,
right.
Every time there's news on that, the market doesn't even quake.
So you have this line that I think comes in. Where are you calling the breakout level? 3020? Let's see your line that shows it as where you're looking at a breakout, Mike.
Yeah, well, I think this market broke out already, Dale, when it took
Over
out 3029.
Okay.
All right. When we took this out, here's the beginning of your next bull run. After 18 months of consolidation, I think we're just starting.
Okay.
And
all right, so let me ask you something. I've seen a lot of breakout fake outs in my career, and we have had a nice run over that. So if you believe it's a breakout, if we ever start closing back under the breakout, is that your line in the sand for the bull case?
Yeah, I think for me, if you can't hold that breakout level, a retest and bounce off of it is extremely bullish, right?
Right.
It shows commitment.
Right.
If you lose much below the 3,000 area, I would give it to 3,000 because it's such a big psychological number in this market.
Okay.
I'd be really worried. Okay. And then maybe a retest of the 200-day comes in quickly.
Okay. And off this chart gives you what you're going to do in VIX derivative products.
Yep. So, I saw you guys talking about the VIX earlier, and let me pull up a chart here. The VIX for me has been an interesting chart this year because every time it's gotten below to 12, it's bounced off of it, right? And when you look
at a new regime, like Steve was talking, we used to trade 9, 10, and now it's 12, 13.
Yeah. And now it's 12, 13, right? And if you look here, we bounced off of it a couple times in the last week. Bollinger Bands are really tight, which tells me it's starting to get ready for a bigger move. But when you're looking for a bigger move on the VIX and it's already at 12, the move is probably up off of here. Yeah. And so what I'm looking at is if we can take out this area, we're above 13 here where we have pre-market. We're at 13, 16. I think you can get a quick move like some of these little pops up into the 20 area.
Okay.
Right. And if you like to play that, you look for things like the VXX. The VXX trades with the VIX. It's extremely liquid. When you look at options on it, for example, which I love about, I trade it with common stock and options. You can come out here and just going out to December. I mean, look at the 19 calls. You got a 0.40 delta. That means 40 cents for every buck. You have 20,000 out there in open interest, and they're under a buck. That's a pretty cheap way to get some exposure.
What's the strike on that?
Those are the 19s for December.
Okay. Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So you have a month, and they're
Yeah.
very liquid,
Yeah. Okay. And they're almost at the money.
and they're almost at the money. If you want to go a little cheaper, the 20s would work as well. Again, always look at the open interest. Make sure there's a
Right.
lot of people out there playing it. You don't want to be. You see these ones here's a 126. You don't
Yeah.
want to touch these. The market makers can do what they want to you to try to get in and out of that.
Yeah. You'll end up paying twice as much for the bid offer, the spread,
Right.
and a lot of unables too, not being able to get executed. They make you want to chase it. Uh, well, that's an interesting look that we have here in the VXX, and the options are liquid. You showed open interest there, so that's an interesting way. You prefer those over just a straight VIX calls?
So I'm a little old school with that stuff. The VXX is actually an ETF, and it has volume in it,
Okay,
whereas the VIX is a derivative of a derivative of a
okay,
derivative, right? There's nothing actually under the VIX. What I also like about the VXX, which you can see here, is the VXX if you go on, I usually like to use a 5-minute chart on it. I'll blow this up for you. When it's in play, it usually starts leading the VIX. Usually a little tell.
nice.
It'll start overperforming the VIX because they're piling into it ahead of the incoming volatility.
Okay,
So you can watch it on a 5-minute chart, and if you see the VXX taking out that high like here, and the VIX hasn't yet, chances are they're going to keep coming for it. That means volume's starting to come in, and it's starting to come into play.
that's a pearl.
Yeah.
So people that want to trade VIX need to pay attention to this for that reason. Um, okay, I forgot what I was going to ask you after the VIX question. So, uh, any other markets that you're looking at? Any sectors that are standing out to you? One thing I've noticed is pretty general is with the Nasdaq, blowing to new highs. I think half the fangs aren't confirming it.
No, they're not, and we've seen some underperformance in a lot of tech. Right, growth
Yeah,
names have definitely been underperforming. And that kind of brings us to where we're going is to the value names have seen a lot of flow into them, a lot of overperformance. And where's my
yeah.
IWM
They
chart?
started buying the stuff that was really cheap for
Right.
this last wave. Something I learned is when they start buying the trash, which I'm not saying these companies were trash, but they were way underperformers that, they're rotating into it. It's keeping the market going. That used to be some type of warning sign when they get into tertiary, which used to be like in the old days Amex stocks and, before Russell was an index. So Russell just can't break out with the rest of the market. Do you know have a feeling on what's going on there? It looks like it wants to, but over the last 6 months, it keeps getting to a level and it's unable to. So, what are you thinking here?
They keep coming after the Russell. So, to your point, Russell has been trapped and range bound. It has not made new highs with the diamonds or the Qs or the SPY. And this 160 area has just been a bear for it, right? You can see it just keeps coming into it and getting rejected. And it's got a $15 wide channel. I mean, if you look at it, it's really
Yeah,
trading between 145 and 160. That
yeah.
said, this was leading us when the market rallied, this led us. And it's been going sideways here. And you kind of have a little bit of a cup and handle formation here formed on it. And
Okay.
keep buying calls on it. Yesterday, we saw the December 6th 164 calls. They came and hit those hard late in the day yesterday. So
And wasn't
there's
this the index that was supposed to outperform with a trade war going on compared to the multinationals?
Yes, it was, and it's kind of funny how it's underperformed through this at this point, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if there's a trade deal, um, it shouldn't matter as much to them, but it seems like that's what it's waiting for.
It seems like it's waiting for it. I do think that
And
the
these are mainly
IWM,
domestic
yeah,
companies.
can lead us out. And if you want to take another look, I think the next one that also ran with the banks,
Yeah.
and they had a beautiful run. I'm no longer in the banks. I sold my positions, but on a dip, I'd buy them back because again, kind of like the market's a long-term sideways action. Where other things were making highs, the banks were stuck. I think these are some things on a pullback to watch to see how they hold in. And my favorite there still remains J.P. Morgan and Bank of America. JP Morgan new all-time highs in the last 2 weeks. Incredibly strong.
So it was starting to advance with all the worry about yield inversions, right, Mike? But it really propelled. It was really rocket fuel for the steepening to begin in the yield curve. So if you want to buy a break, we may have a pause in that type of action and then continue to steepen. Is that your view on yields? Do you have one?
I don't really have a big view on yields, Dale. I'll be honest with you. I keep lose track of them because when the market's worried about it.
Take a look at how we've been steepening and lay it over any of your banks, and you'll see that's the bank's best friend is a steepening curve.
Thank you. I will
anyway, I can't stop myself. I'm a educator.
Hey, you know what? We all do.
Yeah. So, I really appreciate your views, and I learned something because I used to trade some VIX stuff, and I didn't pay attention to VXX, and I'm always looking for markets to give me messages that are kind of tells before the event. So that was a pearl. Anything you want to continue with here, Mike?
I think days like today, you have the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock. I don't really expect much out of it, but the market will probably be very quiet heading into it.
Okay.
We have a tremendous amount of China news. One thing that's amazed to me is when you look at the SPY, and every time we had China news in the last 2 weeks, the dip was immediately bought back.
Yeah.
And to me, you guys were having conversation. I think some type of a deal is going to get done because, both sides kind of need it, and he needs to keep the market afloat if he's going to be reelected. And my gut call here at the end of the day is that the market doesn't go into recession until after he's the election, assuming nothing happens in between there or a complete breakdown in China-American talks, which I don't think is going to happen here.
Okay. Well, from your lips, do you know whose ears?
Yes. He's sometime 5 miles away from me at my house. Maybe I'll go over there and
maybe
and
Bob Pisani could go negotiate it.
There you go.
Not your dad. The guy, send your dad too. Bob Pisani's can accomplish anything. So, Mike, what's the best way for people to keep tabs? And do you teach people? Is that part of your service?
I do.
Educating people that, have an interest in options, but, they have a fear of the unknown?
Yeah, I do. So first of all, the easiest way to track me is @OptionsMike on Twitter. Okay, I post a ton of stuff out there for free. I'm doing a free webinar tonight, and where I'm going to go over in great detail what I think this market, what my forward look is, and what I'm doing here. But then you go to my website, smartoptiontrading.com. Come on in. If you're interested in my daily product, it's real-time option flow throughout the day. I do a morning setups video, a nightly recap video, and all the trades and news and option flow throughout the day. I'm also live for about 3.5 hours a day through a chat room interface, Zoom, just like you use here. I love that, by the way.
Cool. All right.
And if you're interested in it,
and
I'm always
you
teaching.
Even give people a cup of coffee, I noticed on the last slide.
There you go, a little cup of coffee to get you going.
A little Kahlua in there. My Greek friends probably put a little ouzo in theirs, but you know what, Mike? I have to say this, that your demeanor and your presentation with humility, and I know you're good, makes you one of the best option guys I've interviewed, and I've interviewed quite a few. So if you want to learn about options, I think that Mike has a temperament to be patient with you, and check him out.
Dale, thank you so much. And yeah, I do an options trading and technical trading class for people. If you're interested, come on in, just let me know.
Well, have a great Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I hope every option you buy doubles, and anything you write expires worthless. And I appreciate you being here again, Mike, my trading warrior brother. Thank you for your support on Twitter, and I'm always rooting for you.
Thanks, Dale. Happy holidays to everybody here, you as well. And anytime, welcome to come back. Thanks for having me on again.
And thanks for giving us those key levels in HYG and also in the S&Ps. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. So that's a wrap for us today. Good hunting the rest of the day. And remember, don't just count your option strangles or condors or whatever they call them, and count your blessings. If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. Adios, everyone. See ya.